Right, my name is Edith WeUtonga Katiji. I'm the president of the Zimbabwe Musicians Union and the vice president of the International Federation of Musicians. The Zimbabwe Musicians Union was formed in the year 2014 after a lot of talk on WhatsApp, complaints from musicians about the situation that the music sector is finding itself in. And so we decided to meet in person. Kutima problems that now require us to meet in person. And we all met at the Old Book Cafe on Samora Machel. And I think there was more than 60 or 70 musicians that came on that day. And a steering committee was formed, which had about 26 musicians. And we went to the National Arts Council to find out what we needed to do, having discussed my problems and realizing from the advice that Akapiwa and Baba, the late Vambirimi Kutaiwa, the problems that you have require you to be a union. Isusu, your elders, we failed when we tried to create a Wakaiti Muz or something, and we failed. So maybe Mimi, as a young generation, you might be able to do this. And so we followed it up, went to the National Arts Council, and we were told, okay, at this level that you guys are coming, I think you'd need to consider being registered as a national union, and these are the requirements. And National Arts Council gave us the requirements, and we went out to find them. We went out to starting to create a constitution, and through that process, even myself learned a lot, because even existed in that time, and with the likes of Pablo Nakapa, with the likes of Simba Sain, with the likes of Lloyd Chidikano, all the musicians that you can think of, and Nana Rutembangwa. I remember Amara Brown was there, Clay Nyakujara was there, and we set out to do this thing. And so Zimbabwe Musicians Union became official on the 19th of December 2014. Right, our membership is derived from musicians that are practicing in Zimbabwe. Anybody who's got something to do with music. They could be a dancer in a band. They could be a backing vocalist in a band. They could be a worship player in a band. Anyone who music are in a band setup, or they are a session musician at Wakuma Studios. Those are the members that we're looking for in the Zimbabwe Musicians Union. And at that point, I remember we even included musicians that are leading bands. And so we have membership in the form of people that are band leaders at the moment, that are brands in their own right. And so anybody who's doing music is a member of the Zimbabwe Musicians Union. I want to say, Kuti, from the time that we started, we have grown. Initially, musicians, out, they will meet, and then a few months down the line, they are going to disperse because and I want to say this, it was there in, okay, to lead one of this woman, because in the steering committee, we had advisors, in the form of the likes of Anateri Mapurisana. I remember we had Anna Daniel Nguira, who is also a musician. And in the constituting and the steering, you can say, the person that's going to help you steer this is Edith WeUtonga, which is steering chair. And we kicked off. And the challenges that we faced in that time came from the other stakeholders within the arts who were thinking, can our musicians are organized to chat about problems, And so there was a lot of discouragement, but we pressed on. And so we started creating programs that would allow musicians to come in and learn, musicians to come in and share, musicians to come in and network. And I remember us having entertainment law clinics in partnership with the Music Crossroads, because Music Crossroads then gave us a hub, a space where we could host all these events, because as a union that's just starting, we didn't have a place of our own that we were, renting out, renting for us to operate. And we hosted the entertainment law clinics. We hosted grooming and etiquette clinics. We hosted your health clinics. And we also hosted mentorship sessions. And in all this, every time we would receive new members then that want to participate because they saw the call on Facebook. How did we grow? There are those people that were in spaces like Binga, that were in spaces like the Victoria Falls, who would write us on Messenger on Facebook and say, when are you going to come to our spaces? Because we also want to be a part of this thing that you're doing. Isn't zonke loke ziphelele Harare? So this is looking like it's a Harare thing. But our biggest challenge was that we didn't have the funding. Everything that we were doing as a member organization, for example, maybe was meant to be funded by the registration fees and subscriptions that musicians were paying. But most of our members would come in and pay the membership fee and then be unable to pay the 1 year annual or quarterly subscriptions that they were supposed to pay. So we had to make a plan on how do we get the funding to get to all these places that people would like for us to get to. I remember putting a funding application to Culture Fund. It didn't go through. I remember we put an application to other local organizations trying to set up meetings. But I think the word union on its own makes people feel like, okay, this thing is too serious. I don't know in what way. And so that became the challenge for us. So within us, the likes of Rute, the likes of Pablo Nakapa, the likes of Jalolo, the likes of, who am I missing here? Daniel Ngwira, people would put up money from their personal pockets and would make sure that we push the agenda for the union. I was a brand ambassador, for a number of organizations. I would go there and make sure when I perform, I come back and bring the money and put it into the union to make sure we reach Midlands when we went to Midlands, or the first time that we went to Bulawayo. It was money that we're able to collect from our personal, works and saying, okay, we know the vision that we have and this is where we want to get. But from that time, the beauty about it was that the National Arts Council, for example, recognized and realized the work that we had before us and would always make sure that whenever we're doing my workshops, or when they were doing or hosting workshops, they would always invite us. Whenever a musician went to their offices to register, they would ask them, do you know about the Zimbabwe Musicians Union? These are the people that would give you more access to the things that you would need as a musician who is functioning in this sector in Zimbabwe. And so there was a lot of people coming in through the National Arts Council. There were people coming in through the institutions like the Music Crossroads Academy, for example, the Midland State University, for example, and all these people were being referred because somebody was paying attention to the small works that we're doing through our online platforms.
Great. I've heard you mention names, but I don't hear some of the prominent names. Do you have them within your membership?
Right. The reason why unions are created, they are there to address the problems people in any sector are facing, challenges that need addressing. And so you find, Kuti, those that you call the prominent names will not come because as far as they're concerned, they don't have any challenges. Kanosnama problems, doctor, you know what I mean? And that's well and good. But their members, their band members will probably need to be in the union because then they have challenges that they will face. In bands, you travel to places where you're made to sleep in the same room. And sometimes that's where the issues of abuse have come from. You are paid way later than the time that you've performed. That's an issue that any band member would want addressed. And if there are standards, that we're following, my SOPs where we're saying these are our standard operating procedures, then the musician is protected. Then the musician can refer to that, but in the union member and union yangu inotaura kuti inini this is how much I'm supposed to be paid, this is where I'm supposed to stay and end up performance, stage here is safe. They have every right to say that. How many times have we had kuti musician yakadona pa stage because stage and guess now said all right. These are health and safety issues and only a union can address. And so the big names that we're asking about, they don't feel the need to because their needs are catered for, because they are the brands that are calling the shots in terms of how much they want to be paid. And so they're happy with what they're getting paid. But are their band members happy with what they're being paid? And those are the people that would then, encourage to come and join the union. However, the likes of the late Baba Bob Nyabinde signed the forms. The likes of Anababa Charamba signed the forms at some point because they understand, I think things or the essence of why such things exist. The likes of Diana Samkange, these are big names. The likes of Anna Peter Moyo, they signed these forms. The likes of Anna Raskeleb, Anna Bashubi, they're all members of the union. Ruth Mbangwa, Willis Watafi, these are all members of a union and they see the importance why they're supposed to be a union. I think what ZIMURA is doing is unprecedented to begin with.
So can you take that up again?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the issues or the punitive $150 US dollars that the ZIMURA people are trying to press on the musicians is something that has never been done in any country. And I think by that virtue, if they operate according to international standards, they are going against those international standards. And the musicians unions that we are member with, for example, Senegal, Kenya, Mauritius, have all, condemned this stance by ZIMURA because it's something that's unprecedented. When musicians perform music on stage, Edith WeUtonga ngenda stage, my music that I'm performing is supposed to be on the playlist ichienda kuZIMURA. Kana ndafunga kuzoridza Baba Tuku, kana ndafunga kuzoridza Mbilia Bell, kana Kanda Bongo Man, then they are also supposed to be on that list that goes to ZIMURA. And ZIMURA collects the licensing fee for my performance from the venue from where I'm performing. Now, what they're trying to do right now is to kill a certain section of the value chain of the ecosystem that is in the music sector. Not everyone comes to a performance to watch Edith WeUtonga from 6 o'clock to 9 p.m. Not everyone comes to a performance to watch Japreza from 6 o'clock to 9 p.m. Sometimes people just want to watch or listen to a variety of music. That's why Zimbabwe tine ma playlist. That's why petinoenda ma venues atinoenda and we find there's a band that's playing covers. They're playing a variety and they'll take you from Zimbabwe to Jamaica to America to India, and you listen to all this music and enjoy it because somebody somewhere is out there to listen to that music in one go. It's not illegal. And as long as that band is performing in a venue that is being licensed, then there's no reason for them to be charged $150 per performance. What ZIMURA is trying to do means that all the young aspiring bands and all the bands that are being booked to perform in these hotels, Kanapamchato, to play a variety of music, they're out of work. If a band has 6 people, that's 6 families. And ZIMURA is saying those people should go out of work. When we really take a closer look, I was in Bulawayo a few days ago and I spoke to the manager of a venue called The Place. And she said, we don't charge anyone kupinda pa gate. We are providing this entertainment for our patrons because they are buying the beer, they're buying the food. And what we're doing here is catering for a market that's actually looking to listen to a variety of music. And the amount of money that this venue is paying the musicians is very little. So if we're saying a band gets paid $200 and ZIMURA wants to collect $150, should these musicians go without work? We know what's happening right now. Nima problems, nima drugs, nima problems, depression. These are people that are employed and getting a minimal amount to just survive from one day to the other. And ZIMURA says they must pay this $150. I sense greed. I sense misplaced priorities. And I sense a situation where we are trying to put the burden on the wrong group of people. ZIMURA is already collecting money for licensing. ZIMURA is already receiving money for royalties that's coming from other countries. And for the 42 years that they have existed, ZIMURA is supposed to have been paying these families that they are parading right now in front of people and saying they're going hungry. For these past 42 years, what have they been paying them? They've been collecting money in millions. Where is that money been going to? Vakuzoya nas after 42 years to say mabenda arikuridza makava ndivo vane mari these families, these widows and these children vane vabereki vavo vakafa. To begin with, those musicians were signed to record labels. So if ZIMURA was taking that money to record labels, what's giving them the power to collect that money today? There is our problem. In all this, all we're saying is, I'm a composer, and I've listened to a few young musicians play some of my songs, and I am for composers receiving remuneration for their works, but not in this way that ZIMURA wants to do. There are ways that at least if they had agreed for us to sit down and talk, taiwonesana kuti this is how we can do these things to make sure that it works without killing this whole value chain that's there. Ine vana vari kubva kuchikoro vari kuita VPA, vari kudzidzira our music, trying to play it until they can master, the tricks to playing music. As long as I'm performing in a licensed venue, I'm okay. But if a band sets out to go and create their own venue in the Bundu somewhere and promote their own show, there are ways of doing it, from the National Arts Council Yacho to giving an annual blanket license that says, okay, this band does not play in licensed venues. This band creates their own shows. But mangani mabendi wairikuita izvozvo, and no one has said, no, we're refusing to do this. My composers must receive their money. But in this way that they're trying to do it, there will be no cover bands. There will be no upcoming artists, because artists are having to operate from, you cannot play my music, you cannot play this music. But there is a threat as well to our cultural heritage, because some of this music is traditional music that was composed, the musicians created music on top of, or the basis of, a traditional sound, traditional songs, and created their songs. Saka, we are saying kuti susu, some legacies are just going to go extinct because they are not allowed to be played. And yet, that is the reason some of the music, when you go on TikTok, that music has been rebirthed, and that music is receiving the airplay or is receiving the downloads that it requires, where ZIMURA can then go and collect, because this band of young people has gone and played this music, and people have become curious to find out who the artist, the original artist is. We see it every day right now. A song that's being created or played right now and being enjoyed by my 10-year-old. I listened to it when I was 10 because an original artist did it. UB40 is a cover band. Come on, guys. Like, honestly. Las Vegas, yakazara, nema cover bands. And all those people are not the ones that are directly paying to a CMO. But the venue, the promoter are doing that job. I think maybe our biggest challenge to begin with is that ZIMURA has made themselves the law. They've challenged the law that regulates their operation in the country. And there is our problem. But the solution will be that we just follow what international standard practice is. They've already been collecting money. They should just distribute that money. I went to ZIMURA a few days ago to collect my royalties over 5 years. No way in the papers that they gave me does it say this money was collected from licensing. There's just a blanket $20 from ZBC and General. They are not specific. Now, to solve this issue, ZIMURA should just stop. We celebrate that the Ministry of Justice called them out for this behavior. I want to call it a behavior and a show of greed by ZIMURA, because already they are collecting more than 35% of administration charges. I can never collect $150. Vachanobata futi 35%. And to my brothers and sisters whose parents passed away, as long as this is by law, or if ZIMURA is the law upon themselves and they put this into effect, as musicians that are going to perform, you're going to have to be liable to paying that $150 as well. And they're going to have to collect the 35% first before they come to give you the peanuts that they're giving right now. And over years, ZIMURA has given people the same amount of money. When it was US dollars, every year, for example, I would say I collected $400 from ZIMURA. It never changed. So who is watching and monitoring Kuti, the music that was played? This is how it was played, and Edith gets $400 this year, next year she gets $400, and Felinande gets $1,200, next year she gets $1,200, and the following year gets $1,200. Something is wrong at ZIMURA, and we need to address that. And the solution right now, besides them being asked to stop charging this $150, the board at ZIMURA needs to go, because they've let the musicians down. The board was voted in by the musicians, because the musicians trusted these musicians, fellow musicians, to go in there and be the ears and the eyes for the musicians. But they did not. The board is quiet. What is it that the management has on the board that's keeping them quiet? I want to know. My fellow musicians who are members of ZIMURA want to know. Yeah? And 2, the management at ZIMURA, for all that they've done in announcing this 150 and calling us, the composers, I'm speaking as a composer now, not just as a president of a union, and calling me the tenant over my music that I gave you caretaker job for. They need to go. They've given us a show of mismanagement, and this has gone on for years. How does a CMO that has existed for more than 42 years still collect over 35% of administration fees? How does a CMO call musicians to an AGM and present financials 30 minutes or 45 minutes before the time to leave comes? And every time just call out Kuti, who is seconding these financials, and people don't know what is on those financials. No one is explaining what's going on to those members, and they keep getting away with it. For me, that's gross mismanagement. And for that, whoever the powers that be, the Ministry of Justice and Parliamentary Affairs, the Intellectual Property Office, ZIMURA needs a forensic audit, because if we allow them to have an independent audit, ZIMURA is still going to get away with it. The industry is not going to grow. They're pushing all this because now there's a new player in the field. We are happy to have as many CMOs as possible, as long as people are doing things that are in the interest of the people that they're supposed to serve. Some of the musicians that are being told to pay the 150 have been the session musicians that have recorded in the studio this music and were not paid because artists are cutting down snamar. And ZIMURA has been collecting money from all these countries and not distributing it evenly across the board. So if they're demanding this money for licensing fees right now, what has happened to the 42 years of the licensing fees that they've been collecting, and they've not mentioned when they're distributing the royalties? What has happened to the monies that belong to international CMOs that they are not sending because they belong in a third world country that is recognized as a country that's poor? Can they at least show us proof that they've been sending money out there? So if we have a forensic audit, we're able to see these things. And these are the questions that not just Edith WeUtonga is asking, but the musicians who probably do not have the guts to ask, because you've become a power upon yourself that you're threatening musicians on the sidelines. And we're being attacked even on social media by people that are in your office and they are on your payroll, and people that are receiving sitting allowances. And they come to attack us on open spaces on social media because we're speaking out our minds. You're a private company, ZIMURA, and you're member driven, and if the members are not happy, then you must go. Let's clean up ZIMURA. Let's reform ZIMURA until we have a collection society that has the interests of the musicians at heart. We want to see the development from the millions that we've been collecting, because right now you're in a shuttered office. For years, it's not developed. So where is the money going? If it's not going to the musicians, where is it going? If it's not going to the widows that you claim you've been collecting for? These are the answers that we need. I speak as Edith WeUtonga. I'm also speaking as the Zimbabwe Musicians Union president. These are the questions that the people are asking, and we need answers. And if the board cannot speak and come to my inbox and ask me why we are posting them, that the board is not answering, they're seeing no evil, they're hearing no evil, they remain mum. What has happened? Are you captured as a board? Regai kuya kuma inbox kwangu board. Can you at least answer us openly? Can you at least give us the records openly? I'm a member and I've been to ZIMURA and I've not been given those records that I've asked for. Thank you.
Era.